Code review. Fun, positive, enriching. So you can have a code review program that can be an amazing experience for your current developers, and who knows, help attract new ones too. That's what happened at PowerShop. Hello, I'm Thong. Here are some ways you can reach me after this talk. I'm currently working as the team leader at PowerShop. PowerShop's mission is to help our customers understand their power consumption better. And we do this by giving them better control over their power consumption, be it understanding your meter readings or getting bills online in an easy and fast way. So to power all of this, we have a single monolithic Rails app. Yes, it's monolithic, which powers almost all areas of the business. So for example, this includes the online shop, the call center, and handling file exchanges with other parties in the industry. So this talk is going to be all about how my team, fixed our code review process. As a side note, I just want to stress that this talk is also going to be more about the cultural side of things, because I strongly believe that if you get the people and practices, aka culture, right, then the technical side of things will just flow. There's plenty of blog posts and videos about technical checklists, what's a good code review. That's all out there. But the cultural side of things, I think, gets less press. So I want to talk about that today. More importantly, it's about getting from here. That's me going, oh my God, to here, where we have a happy team shipping out productive code. Sprint 119. This was around April 2015. Our team were in the middle of a very large project. The last 9 sprints we did not complete on time, which was sad. And we felt really deflated because we've been struggling with a series of very, very large changes, basically to refactor half the app. And we've been going through all these review cycles, some of them with some external reviewers from outside the team, and we've been getting back really large review notes as well. So we had to deal with all of that. So these were very large changes, and hence this required very large code changes, and they were quite risky as well. So we spent a lot of time reviewing those because the diffs were like enormous. So yes, so very large changes leading to some complex solutions and leading to very large diffs. I checked the stats at that time. The average diffs for a change was around the 1,000 to 2,000 line mark. I don't know about you, but getting a 2,000 line code review at the end of the sprint saying you only got 1 day to do this, that was fun. And then the tester was waiting on us to go, can you deploy this so that I can have a look? So we didn't complete our sprints. And this meant that we were enormously slowed down, and we released stuff to production. Our team released stuff to production only once a month. That was really sad. Now, releasing stuff to production that's large and risky like this also carries a certain amount of risk in that things might go like this. Some of you might have been there before. So with such large changes, there was no way we could have caught all the bugs, right? Or at least like even the severe bugs. I think we had one survey bug go into production at that time, but luckily it didn't cause any loss of data, thankfully, and we fixed it with the help of others. Thank you. So yeah. So at the end of the sprint, for sprint 119, we had a retrospective, and we resolved that no, as a team, we're not going to go through that again. What we decided on, what we settled on, was the following. We're going to change how we review and when we review. So we're going to review more often, not just at the end. And secondly, we need to have smaller changes. Those giant changes might not be necessary. And thirdly, we need everyone to help review. We'll talk about that more. Let's go. So before I go into what we change, how we fix our code review process, I'd like to speak a bit about what we already do well at that time. Firstly, code review is already mandatory. Now, not every company does that. Sometimes, at some other companies, code reviews are as an on-needed basis. But what I found is that having a mandatory code review is brilliant. Like, you catch so many things. And we have been doing code reviews at PowerShop, mandatory code reviews at PowerShop from the very beginning. And for the last 7 years, it has caught so many things that we would not have caught otherwise. Secondly, we have a definition done. So that's important because if your code review throws up something that says, can you refactor this little thing, please? And it turns out to be this giant mushroom thing, you can say, no, that's all right. We can do it later. If it meets the definition done, that's when you know how to stop. So that's great. So that stops unnecessary suggestions turning mushrooming into 3 sprints later when we're still not finished. And thirdly, we test our code. So having specs, I think, ranks slightly higher than code review in terms of saving our bacon. The number of times we have caught really embarrassing bugs with our specs is just phenomenal. So those are the 3 points that I just talked about. So the first thing that we wanted to change was review often. As I mentioned before, we only sent code for review at the end of the change, and that was really bad. In addition to the obvious, oh my god, bottleneck effect, there's no way that we were caught all the bugs. So we changed things to review more often, namely after every task. So if a change has, say, 3 tasks, write a model, and write a service, and finally hook everything up into a controller, we'll review after each of these tasks. That worked really well because, well, it's a natural place to review, and if things went not so great, we can always back it out and try another approach, but only just for the task. Another thing that we tried was to review like after every commit, but that became horrendous because there were too many commits, and sometimes the commits weren't logical anyway, and they weren't related to any value. So we went back to reviewing after every task. That's great. And the other thing that we did was to have everyone know, at least on a high level, what everyone else was doing in the team. Before that, what we did is that we were kind of split into two mini teams in one. Like 2 of us will work on this change over here, and 2 of us will work on another change over there. 2 weeks later, we exchanged code for review, and wait a minute, what are you doing? Oh, that one. Yeah, so we wasted a lot of time getting each other up to speed, just so that we can review each other's code. Instead of that, we spent a little bit of time at the beginning for sprint review, and we at least plan out the high-level tasks so that we all know what changes are, we all know what these changes are, and that made things faster when we reviewed stuff. So to kind of recap that part, firstly, everyone plans out the work, we seek back feedback often, but we still have the final review before we merge the master. Make changes more. Now, reviewing often is great, but that really didn't resolve the issue of like giant diffs. So what we did is that we went back to the product owner and worked with him to make the changes smaller, into smaller independent chunks. That worked well, everyone was happy. The product owner got to see incremental progress, a bit smaller, but it's better than having one change landing and potentially breaking production. The testers were happy as well because there's more stuff to test other than just waiting for us to complete the things. So that's good. And thirdly, everyone reviews. So what transpired was that the only people that were really reviewing this code was me as the team lead and the next most senior person, because this was such complex stuff. And after a bit of discussion with the wider team, we decided that everyone should review. Why not? After all, I come in every morning. The first question that I get asked is, Thong, I have nothing to do today. I'm still waiting on that code review for you. What can I do today? Oh my God. So instead of spending time making busy work for them, I went, why don't you review this code for me then? That went well. I was a bit skeptical because, you know, they were new and they wouldn't have, might not have caught all the bugs, but a really good example is that I got one of our most junior members to review my code, and I was really amazed when she quite thoroughly found all my mistakes. In addition, she also pointed out some performance, places where performance could be improved as well. That's amazing from someone who just started 1 month ago. It's like, wow, that's pretty great. You might think, oh my God, if we have people who don't know the code that well review, won't we let bad code to production? Yeah, a little bit, but turns out that they don't really matter so much. There were some minor bugs, but with these minor bugs, we had a trade-off of a faster feedback cycle. So the people who code review naturally learn faster, and they learn not to do it next time. We still caught the major issues, and I'll show you how. More reviews. That's how we caught the major issues. So remember, we still had a final review at the end before we merged the master. And that worked really well. So one thing that I tried in the next team that I was on was more of a kind of a lieutenant general model where there's a whole bunch of people review each other's codes in those topic branches. And at the end, the final review, one of the most senior people will take a look. And that really just caught way more issues, especially the major issues that no one had thought about. The other thing that we had was the ability, any reviewer can seek a second opinion, even outside of the team as well. We call this second breakfast. You know the hobbits? And that was especially useful. So, for example, if you're reviewing something that's to do with tax or money or anything like that, there's always an expert senior developer on hand who's very happy to help you look at the code. Even though they're external reviewer, they might take some time to come back to you, but it's worth it. In addition, we still have we're lucky to have a team of testers who actually test stuff out, and they actually test stuff out in terms of quality assurance as well. Finally, the release manager, the person who releases the code, just does a quick glance to see if there's any things that might break production. Migrations is probably one of them. So that's great. Also, that all went great. But also, we needed to grow the team, right? This is still very much a work in progress. As we want to grow our pool of code reviewers, we want to improve the way that they review their code. So how do we do that? Firstly, we got to recognize that if you're someone who's new to reviewing code, you need to give them lots of encouragement. Some of us would be really scared of reviewing some senior developer's code for the first time, and they will not be quite so eager to question their code. It's like, this person has been coding for 20 years. Should I be asking this silly question? No. There's no dumb questions. So that's what we try to foster. We keep telling people there's no dumb questions. So encouraging people who go slowly at code review to ask all the deep questions is good. And we also try to encourage people who go fast at code reviews and sometimes miss things to kind of slow down and go, try to think about the deeper issues now that you're really good at things. And as I mentioned before, if you're submitting code for review, we really encourage everyone to be open to feedback. So not just mentioning in the PR that, hey, try and look for any mistakes, there are no dumb questions, but just going up to them and showing them the code and telling them in person as well, you know, I'm happy to hear any ways to improve. I'll take it on and, yeah, encourage them to review it thoroughly. And also there's the other code reviews that I mentioned previously, which, because all our code reviews are public on our GitLab, anyone can go and read it. And this is very much an area that I really like to see people reading more code reviews and looking at the finer points where here's some interesting code that could be improved, and here's feedback, and here's how we end up in better code. So that's something that we like to keep seeing in PowerShop. So just as a little epilogue, 6 months later, what happened is that as a result of improvements that we did, we now consistently improve our sprints, which is great. The team never felt happier. We consistently reported happy sprints over and over again. Other teams started copying our processes. Copying is flattery, right? And it worked well for them too. They adapted it. And that is better. And we copied them back. PowerShop themselves, we grew from 30 developers to 50 developers. That's amazing. We went from 3 teams to 7 teams. So I moved on to be the team lead of the 6th team. And as we discussed what we went through as Team 3, and the team immediately went, yeah, that's great, let's adopt it, and we made it even better. So to summarize, code review can be an amazing experience for both your current team and your future team. And I'll just like all of you to, when you go back, to think about what you can improve in your teams to help them to be more faster, more productive, and to be happier. Thank you.